in a series like we did before. Always do the end grain first. Take our push block again. We're going to lock them all down. And since we're the push block, you can make a wider push block. If you want to make a series of push blocks, make a wider one where you come over here and hold better. But if you don't want to do that, you can come in here and use the same push block every time. Just make another one here to hold down, and we're ready to take and cut our panel. Now, we might want to slow the speed down because we have a little bit bigger cutter, and I'll show you next how we're going to make that. You can see how that panels are cut. Okay. Turn these around. Okay, you can see we have the end grain cut on our panels. Now all we would do is line them up this way and go with the grain. And again, we're going to use the same jig, right like this. We'll make our cuts on the sides, going with the grain. Okay, we've got our 4 raised panels cut. Now we're ready to insert those into our side stiles and rails. Okay, we're going to take those panels that we have, we're going to assemble one of our sides to see if they fit. There's our side. We're going to stick our panel in right here. Your middle stile goes in here. Then comes the next panel. Okay. Then we can put our other stile right here. You want to dry fit these all together, make sure everything fits. Okay. And you can see our stiles, how it's coming down a little bit. That's for the expansion and contraction inside of our joint right there, just perfect. Now what you need to do next is take this side, both sides, put a little bit of dab of glue on each one of those cope cuts and the adjoining pattern cut, stick it in your clamps, and sand them off nice and smooth. Okay, we've taken our sides out of our clamps and we've sanded them nice and smooth. They're all ready to be put on our project. Now, the next thing we have to do is make some mini raised panels for our headboard and for our footboard. That's what we're going to do next. Okay, in making that headboard and that footboard, we're going to start with making the top rail and the bottom rail on each end. And you can see the bottom rail is labeled D here, and the bottom rail on the front and the back are identical. So cut those pieces out and label them. Now, our headboard is part A, so label that. We'll cut that piece out, and our footboard is back here. Now, you can see we have a 10-degree angle here, okay? So what we have to do with every one of these pieces is cut a 10-degree angle, right like this, okay? On the headboard and down here, it wouldn't hurt to even draw these on here, lines on here, and we'll take these now on the headboard and the footboard. We're going to go back to our miter sled and cut a 10-degree angle. When you cut it, don't injure this part right here. This is how long that top has to be, exactly. So start with that miter coming from that 10-degree angle, coming from that point down to here, wherever it ends up. Okay, we've got all those top rails and bottom rails cut at the 10-degree angles that are required. Next thing we have to do, you can see, we're going to cut the cope cuts on the ends of all these pieces. And notice that we've already installed our cope cutter back into our router, and you know how to do that very easily. You just take the other bit out, drop the other one in. That's a unique thing about our sets. If you want to make your two sections on the sides, get them all done, and then go to this, you can swap the bits back and forth very easily. That's the nice thing about our sets. Okay, so we got the cope cutter in there. Remember what we're going to do. Put the good side down always, okay? And we're going to run them through. With that 10-degree angle, that requires a push block made at a 10-degree angle. So we're going to take our push block down and bring our stock into here, and that way we get a good, nice square cut and no chipping on the back. So let's make these cuts. Okay, we've got our cope cuts all done. Now the next thing we're going to do is we have to cut the pattern cut on the top rail, the two sides, and the bottom rail of both sections. We're going to start by cutting the pattern cut on the top. And to do that, first, what we have to do is identify that curve. And you can do that in the plans here. We have templates that you can cut out and make your own templates, but it's much easier with our templates already machined to the right size and everything to transfer the lines onto the two top rails. So we're going to show you how we do that next. Okay, we're ready to take and transfer the curves on the bottom sections of our rails, and we're going to use our template. And the template has a center point. What you do is find the center line of your top rails. And we're going to take that center point, line it up right like this. And once you got it lined up, we're going to take and drive two nails into the cope cuts. That way they're hidden. Now, we're going to take this back to our bandsaw, set off within about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch, and then we'll come back and flush trim it and get it perfect. Okay, we've cut that to within about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch of that line. Now we're ready to take and put our template onto here and flush trim it. And remember when we nailed that template on, we nailed into the cope, okay? Now we have our flush trim bit into our router. We're going to flush trim that. Since the flush trim bit is not part of our set, we're going to have to adjust the height of that. So you can see I'm going to bring that bit down right into there so that my bearing is running on my template and my carbide's cutting the wood. All right. Now, we have a very small piece of wood now. Imagine this rail not being on here, and it's kind of touchy getting in here and cutting that. So that's why we took and on the bottom of our template screwed this block of wood. That makes it a little bit safer. Instead of trying to hold that little piece and cut this, we can come out here and it's a lot safer cutting a small piece like this, okay? We'll show you how it's going to be done now. We'll come into here. I just feel a lot better holding that piece of template like this rather than holding it with my hands, okay? So we're going to flush trim. You can see we got that rail to the exact same shape as that template. Now we're going to take it off, put it on our other rail, and do the same thing. Okay, we've got both of those flush trimmed now. Now what we got to do is make this pattern cut on the bottom of these rails onto our top rails here, okay? We put our we took our flush trim bit out and put our pattern cutting bit back in to do that, okay? And you can see it's too low. So we have to bring it up to the right height again. Now, an easy way to do that is to use this tongue portion. We're always putting the good side down, remember? And just move your bit up until that tongue portion lines up with the slot cutter on your pattern cutting bit. So we're gonna tweak that right like that. We got it locked up. You can see where we're lined up right there. Okay, lock it in. We're ready to make that cut now, the pattern cut. And right there is the pattern cut on the bottom of that rail. Now we got to take our template off, put it onto here, and do the same thing there. Okay, we've got our two pattern cuts done right here and right here on our rails. Now, what we have to do is cut the pattern cut on the top of the bottom rail, and then we take our two E's that are labeled E's here, and we have to cut pattern cuts along those to fit into our cope cuts on each side. Okay, so you can see we've got our pattern cutting bit in our router set up ready to go to make some straight cuts. We'll make those straight cuts next. Okay, we're going to cut the top part of our bottom rails first. We're going to put two of them, stack them there next to each other, remember? Then we're going to take our jig and stick over the top to make those cuts. Okay, we've got our pattern cuts all cut on our sides and our bottoms, and we're going to put one together now. On the bottom rail now, what you want to do is just line this up a ways. And we'll stick our top rail in. Now, you can see right now how we are not quite lined up right in here. See that point right there? I'm not quite fitting. So to get that to fit perfect, what I want to do is take and dry clamp this bottom piece and get it set just perfect first. Okay, in order to clamp this right here, what we have to do, we're all 10-degree angles here. I'm going to take and cut a 10-degree angle from this outside point up to here. Same thing on this side right here. So we're going to take that over to our saw and cut those 10-degree angles. That'll allow me to clamp it. Then I'm going to clamp that bottom section only. I'm going to not worry about the top. Okay, we're ready to start cutting the panel in the middle now. You cut the panel to the size it says, cut the 10-degree angles on it like we did earlier. Then we're going to take and apply the template number 4, center the template with here, and we're going to flush trim this off just like we did earlier on this piece here. Once you got that piece cut to the right size, we're going to test fit it. And you can see that it's a little bit too big. And if you look at step 18 in your instructions, says depending on your particular 10-degree setting, you may have to trim panel C to fit all joints tightly. So you can see we want about a 1/16 or a 1/4 of an inch leeway all the way around. We're a little bit long. So what we're going to do is take this back and trim this off on the table saw. Okay, here it is. We trimmed it off. Now you can see our panel fits down in there, and we got a little bit of room for movement in there. Okay, next thing we're going to do is show you how we're going to raise the panel on this curved portion. Okay, we've got our panel cut to the right size. We put our panel cutter in. All we did is drop it in the same height as always. And we got our 10-degree push block to cut our 10-degree angles on our panel. Okay, so we're going to press down on the panel with a push block here and push with our 10-degree block here. Okay, you notice on that last cut, even though we weren't 10 degrees here, all I needed was a forward pressure here, and I was pushing in here against the bearing, and we made our cuts very easily. Now, the last thing we have to do is put that raised panel on the curve. And what we need to do is come into here, make contact with the bearing first to see where we're at, and then come in here and cut the curve. But we don't like our hands that close to the cutter, so what we're going to do is take a couple of pattern cuts. You can see them right here. We'll put one right into here, and we'll put the other one right in here. Lock them down nice and tight. Now, we're going to come across the top with another board, and we'll come in here and screw this board to these two end pieces. Okay, we've got our little jig put together here now, and we put a handle on here, push block, so we can control it better. Make sure you're back far enough here so you have room for you to get on your bearing and make that panel cut. All right, so we'll make our panel cut using our little jig here. Okay, you can see how our little jig works here. It takes a while to make, but it saves in the long run. It makes it very easy to do. Now, we're ready to take our two panels now and insert them into our headboard and our footboard frames and clamp them up. Okay, our panel is cut. We're going to see if it fits into our frame here. Locks down here. We'll put our top rail on. Okay, we're going to lay it back and clamp that top rail too. Okay, you can see it fits, everything fits perfect right in there. The panel's right there. Okay, what we're going to do is put this now, we dry clamped it, we're going to take it apart, glue all the joints, clamp it up, let it dry, sand it, and then we'll bring it back and show you what we do next. Okay, we've got our headboard out of the clamps now, we've sanded it and everything. The next thing we want to do is get this bottom edge all straight. So we're going to take this against the fence on the table saw, set it for this distance, and we're going to cut this off so we're nice and square. Okay, we've got our bottom all squared up now. Now what we got to do is square up the two stiles. And how wide do we make them stiles? Well, let's set our center template on here, and we'll center that right there. Once it's centered, when we cut this off, we want this fall to come right in line and go straight